Hello everybody and welcome to today's episode in the Get Unstuck series with myself, Sarah Archer. I'm a career and leadership coach. If you haven't met me before, I work with female leaders to create the kind of career success that's right for them. So either through career advancement or through having more impact and influence in their existing leadership career, and always without selling out or burning out. And I created the Get Unstuck series because, having been a female leader myself as an HR director, I know how hard it is to find the time and the space to think about your leadership career, to think about your development, what you want, your direction. And so I thought, okay, I'll create a little series, 15 minutes every couple of weeks, on various topics connected to both career and leadership, to help you have some inspiration, some motivation, some ideas, some tools to take away and put in practice. And I now have a podcast too, Unstuck and Unstoppable, Career Talk for Ambitious Women. I'll put a link in the comments. If you like to consume your career and leadership material differently, if you like to listen to it when you're out walking the dog or whatever, you can tune in to Unstuck and Unstoppable. If you've missed one of these lives, though, and you want to catch up, you can find them in the events section on my LinkedIn profile. They're always quite hard to find, but that's where they are if you have missed previous episodes. So if you're here with me live, I would love to know that. So do pop a hello in the chat, in the comments. And if this topic, how to give your leadership career a glow up, is resonating with you, if you think, yeah, I'd like to have a bit of a glow up in my career, then do pop a yes into the chat as well. I'd love to know if this is something that speaks to you. And I chose this topic because I wanted to kind of make it a little bit fun, give a different spin on it, because it is really important to be thinking about how we kind of move to that next level in our leadership career, either physically move in terms of getting a new role, or just kind of move up in terms of our mindset. Because we've all seen glow ups, haven't we, on Instagram, or even, in our friendship group or wherever. But it's not just about appearance, it's about that kind of confidence, it's about that transformation, and it's about stepping into that next level you. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, because obviously with leadership, it's about that visibility, that influence, that impact that you have, that shows that kind of glow up has happened for you. And so what I'm going to run through today, I've got 4 steps in my glow up formula, if you like, to help you think about where you might need to pay attention to in your leadership career. And I've got a practical action associated with each step for you to take if you wanted some ideas to kind of move the dial on this a little bit. So the first step in the glow up formula is to own your leadership identity, because so often we're kind of waiting for permission, aren't we, rather than kind of stepping up. We're waiting for somebody to notice us, to recognise the work we're putting in, to give us that opportunity to step up. But actually this is about stepping into that leadership mindset already, because you are that leader, because you're wanting it, and giving yourself permission to start being that future leader. And it's also about shifting from that doing to leading. So less execution, more strategy, more big picture thinking, and demonstrating that. I've got a little example of this. So a couple of years ago, I was running my group program for female leaders, and 2 of the women on the group, they were kind of at that middle management level, and they desperately wanted to kind of get to that next stage in their leadership career where they could be more strategic and more visionary. But they'd both been in their organisations for quite a while, and they were definitely kind of seen at that middle management level, and they were sort of waiting for their organisations to give them opportunities to move them forward. And so what we worked on in the group was helping them give themselves permission to start making that shift without waiting for the organisation to do it for them, because that might never happen. And so they then developed a strategy similar to what I'm going to run through today around moving into that kind of leadership mindset. And they both ended up leaving their existing organisations, and now I think we're now 3 or 4 years on from the group programme. They've made 2 moves since then, both of them, and they're both now working at director level. But that kickstart for their glow up, for that transformation, was that permission giving. So seeing themselves as leaders, stepping into that leadership mindset, and moving more into this kind of strategic work. So for you, your practical action from this step would be to identify your leadership strengths and think about how you're showcasing them in your organisation at the moment. Like, people, do they see you as strategic, if that's one of your strengths? Do they see you as visionary, if that's one of your strengths? So thinking about how you're showcasing leadership strengths. And if you're there already, then an extension you could do would be to think about your blind spots as a leader. So what are you not doing? What are you not seeing about your leadership style that you need to pay attention to? And there's a really great question you can ask, which I love. I saw this on a LinkedIn post this week, and I just thought, yes, that is just perfect. So it's asking yourself that question. If you were in a film or a TV series, what would the audience be shouting at you? So we've all been there, haven't we? We've seen, there's a Netflix series or something with a protagonist in it, and they're just not doing something they need to do, or they're not aware of something they need to be aware of, and you're literally shouting in frustration at them at the screen. So thinking about that, if you were in a series or a film, what would the audience be shouting at you? And just seeing if you can identify the area that perhaps you need to pay attention to that you're not aware of. Okay, so that's step 1. Step 2 is to be seen and heard and to amplify your presence, because the leadership glow up really happens when people can see and hear the value that you are bringing to the organisation. And when I'm working with clients, often this is the hardest piece for people to manage and to really kind of move forward in, because it can feel really uncomfortable, that whole visibility piece. But, thinking about meetings and strategically thinking, how am I showing up in these meetings? How am I contributing? What am I leaving people with when I've left the room? And perhaps being more intentional about some of those meetings. It's also about positioning yourself as the go-to expert. And with this, it doesn't hurt to remind people of your credibility and your expertise. So it's fine to say, in my 15 years experience as a marketing leader, I know that if we do X or Y, it will result in this. Or, from the in-depth research that I've carried out around this particular challenge that we're facing, I can tell you that it leads to this conclusion about what we need to do. So just reminding people of your expertise, your credibility, your knowledge can be really helpful at them seeing the value that you're bringing and why you are the go-to expert in your field. And then another tough one to do, but really thinking about sharing your wins and the impact that you have. We get so caught up in what we're doing, we think either people know already what we're facing, what we're doing, or they don't need to know, that it's superfluous. But actually, they do need to know the context in which you're operating and the challenges that you're facing and the complexity that you're having to navigate. So, if you've managed to retain a client, talk about the challenges of retaining that particular client. They're about to walk away, but you put the effort into the relationship. You came up with some creative ways to keep them engaged. You built in X or Y to improve the service, so that you didn't just retain that client, you really operated in this kind of complex, challenging environment to retain that client. So really thinking about telling people what you're doing and how you're doing it. And I've got an example of a client that I worked with. So she's a client where she joined a new organisation last year as a senior leader. She's on the senior leadership team. There's only one other female leader on that team, the rest were male, and they've been there a while. They had a kind of shortcut way of talking to one another, and she found it really hard to get her voice heard in those meetings, to amplify her presence in those meetings. And so we worked together to identify a strategy that she could use to be heard, to showcase her expertise and why they'd employed her to do what she needed to do, and looking for allies to support her in amplifying her voice, not just the other female leader on the team, but the male allies she could enlist as well. And although it's still work in progress for her, she's definitely kind of having a more targeted approach to her presence in meetings, and that is beginning to enable her to push through the initiatives that she really wants to in her leadership role. So the kind of practical action you could take away from this is to think about, where's one area that I could be more intentional over the next few weeks? So is it in a meeting where I want to show up differently? Is it how I show my credibility as a go-to expert? Is it about how I talk about what I do? So choosing one thing that you could be more intentional with, that could be kickstarting your glow up. Then our third area in the glow up formula is to make strategic career moves. And that's recognizing that we don't want to work harder in our glow up. We want to work smarter. We don't want to be adding more to our to-do list. We just want to do things differently and do them in a smarter way. And that's sort of recognizing that maybe what's got you here in your career is not going to get you to that next level. So you might want to be doing things differently. So that could be thinking about your network and your powerful relationships. Like, they may have served you really well to date, but actually, do you need to be bringing different people into your network or your kind of relationship engagement? Are there different people you need to be engaging with now, or do you need to be engaging in a different way? Do you want them to see you differently? It could be around your sponsors or mentors. Do you need different ones for the next stage in your career? Or do you need to be working with your sponsor or your mentor in a different way? And what are you saying yes to? Your strategy may have been saying yes to everything, every opportunity so far, but maybe it's about really prioritizing those high impact opportunities so that you're utilizing your energy really well to have more longer term effect within your career. And again, I've got another great example for you. So one of my clients that I worked with a couple of years ago now, she felt she was stagnating in her career. She worked in a very large organisation, and she could see peers and colleagues just kind of going past her, in terms of promotion. She was feeling really demotivated. So we worked together to devise a bit of a glow-up strategy, really. And one element of that strategy was around her internal network. And so she was great. She worked really hard to start building her network and having conversations around what was possible in other branches within the organisation, how she could, in her existing role, help or support in those different areas, the different challenges, and really kind of building her profile and being seen in the organisation. Ultimately, it led to her leaving the organisation and going working in a new industry in a more senior role, but it really kick-started her confidence building, her visibility, and her understanding of how she could utilize her networks. So it enabled her to make that move out and up from her organization, because she really engaged with her network in a different way to how she had been doing that before. So your practical action from this step could be to think about who is really great that I know at doing that kind of strategic piece around their career. So who is a powerful networker, who is great at working with sponsors and mentors, who is great at saying yes to those strategic opportunities. So write down the name of that person who springs to mind and think about, what are the qualities that I identify with, that resonate with me, that they have around this area, and what could I do differently that they are already doing to move the dial on my leadership career glow up. Okay, so we're on to step 4 in the glow up formula, and that is stepping into your future leadership self. And there's that great question you can ask yourself: what does the next level version of me do, say, make decisions around? So if you're, say, a manager wanting to go to a head of, or a head of wanting to go to a director, or a director wanting to go to the C-suite, thinking about, what does that next level of me do? So when I'm faced with a situation, what would they say? What would they do? What action would they take? How would they be? Because it's just great at helping you already start operating at that next level. So not going with what you're doing right now, but thinking, okay, if I was director of comms, director of marketing, director of HR, director of finance, whatever it is your function is, what would I be doing in this situation? And it just helps you move into that next level already. And then the other really important thing under this area is thinking about your energy, because it's going to require energy to maintain this new version of you, new confident, visible, clear, action-taking version of you. So asking yourself, what do I need to maintain that energy for me? So I would love to know from those 4 steps in the Glow Up formula. So that's, owning your leadership identity, amplifying your presence, making your strategic career moves, and stepping into your future leadership self. Which of those 4 is speaking to you now in terms of what action you need to take? So you can pop in the chat 1, 2, 3, or 4, or maybe all of them is what you feel you need to take. But I would love to know that. And obviously, if you felt you needed support in one or all of those, or you want to develop a Glow Up strategy, then do book in for a free discovery call, and we can talk through how you could approach moving the dial on your career and giving yourself that leadership glow up. So I'll put a link to the call in the chat as well in case you want to take me up on that. And I would love to know how you get on with your glow up. And I hope you enjoyed the session today and you just liked having a different spin on how you can move the dial on your career and step into that next leadership level for yourself. So have a great couple of weeks, and I will see you back here in 2 weeks' time for another edition of the Get Unstuck series.